pickup truck market in America has always been huge, but really for a while the small pickup truck just wasn't around. Since 2011, the rest of the world has had this T6 Ford Ranger, but sadly North America was left out of the fun. Well, now that the small pickup market is starting to heat up again, we're getting in on the fun with trucks like this, the Chevy Colorado, the Toyota Tacoma. The question is, can this compete? As per usual, we're going to talk about the exterior of the car first. We're going to start around here at the front. Something I noticed pretty much right away is that the grille almost is like a combination of 3 different grille designs. So here's what I'm talking about. You got these chrome bars coming across that kind of remind me of like the 2010 generation F-150s. You have your typical honeycomb design mixed into that. And then on top of that, you have vertical black bars. There's a lot going on in this grille. It's an interesting look from afar, but up close, I'm not really a fan. But generally, I appreciate the complexity of it. Now, something else that's kind of quirky about the front is the toe rings at the front. They're not perfectly circular like what's typical. They have a weird kink in them. It's not a complaint, it's just an interesting note. I do like on the hood that it's sort of bulging. You have 2 rectangles that kind of pop up, and while they don't serve any really actual purpose, I think it just looks good. They're creative body lines that just add some extra depth to the truck. Something else to note about the front is your headlights are sort of a cool, interesting design. You don't just have a bulb, you have sort of 3 separate enclosures within the headlights. You have your daytime running lights, your headlights, your high beams, and each one is sort of enclosed within its own separate little box or feature. You have this cool bent rectangle in there with like a box of light. You have the typical L. We see that in a lot of cars these days. And you also have this box with your headlights in it. I think it's an interesting look. It's done in black and chrome, and it's really well thought out. So all Rangers are getting a 2.3 liter 4-cylinder twin turbo EcoBoost engine that puts out 270 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. Now, if you get the towing package, that's going to set you up to tow 7,500 pounds, which is very good for this class. Now, behind that, Ford is putting a 5-year, 60,000 mile warranty. The only 2 interesting things I noted about this engine is that A, it looks very packed in there. They clearly put a lot into a small space. And B, around one of the pipes, it looks like someone just kind of wrapped tinfoil around it. Sort of interesting, but if it works, it works. We're here at the side of the Ranger now, as you can see, and we're going to talk about it. Honestly, the look of this has not changed much since 2011, so if you've seen a Ranger, this is pretty familiar. Something that's sort of interesting is these curved body lines right here that follow the wheel arches. I think it's a nice look. You know I love my body lines. You have these chrome wing caps, which are part of the chrome appearance package. You also have the chrome wheels, which come with that. These Rangers have a lot of different rims. There's like 4 different rim options for the Ranger, which is pretty cool. You have your keyless entry on all 4 doors, which is nice. I mean, really, it's not necessary. How hard is it to just reach your hand here to unlock it instead of here? But it's still a nice feature to have, especially on a car that's $41,000. That's the price tag for this Lariat. Speaking of it being the Lariat, you do get some Lariat badging on the side in this form of this badge right here. It's surrounded in chrome, it's a neat look, and it's not just a flat badge. You can actually sort of reach your hand under that plastic piece. It's an interesting look, and I like it. It's getting creative. I like that car companies are getting more creative with this sort of stuff. I'm happy to see it. The only thing that isn't too cool about the Ranger that the F-150 has eliminated is the black roof lines on top. We'll try to get a shot of them, but a lot of pickup trucks have these black roof lines that attach to the roof. I think Ford was able to eliminate it in the 2015 F-150. I wish they could do the same thing for this Ranger. Other than that, though, this is probably the best looking small pickup there is right now. Right before we move to the back of the truck, I just want to point out this $395 hot pepper red option. It's a good looking paint. Personally, I'm not a fan of red trucks, but hey, if you like it, go for it. Something that's kind of cool around the back here is the tail light. Ford's doing this on a lot of their trucks right now. A good portion of the tail light is actually on the side rather than the back. In fact, I think there's more taillight on the side than on the back. This part doesn't actually light up, but there is some cool Ranger script in it and a cool design. Here at the back of the Ranger, there's not too much interesting stuff going on. You have your standard tailgate. Something that's kind of neat is that Ford does incorporate the backup camera into the Ford logo. That's something they've been doing for a while, and I think that's a good way of integrating it. You have Ranger stamped in big letters across the back. A lot of car companies are doing that now. It's kind of a throwback to an older style, and I actually actually really like how it looks, especially on this Ranger. Another truck that does it that I think it looks good on is the Tundra. You have your typical badging, you have your EcoBoost badge right here, just to let everyone know you drive a 4-cylinder truck. Something else that's kind of quirky and just weird that I noticed is this circle along with a warning right next to it. Is Ford warning you to stay away from the circle? Now, I actually assume that warning label probably has something to do with towing. Speaking of the towing, this truck does have the $495 towing option, which gives you the hitch right here along with your electrical hookups that you would expect if you're going to be doing any sort of heavy towing. Now, also, I mentioned that paint. One place you see this paint in this truck that you do not want to see is in the bed. This truck does not come with the $395 factory bed liner. Of course, if you're going to be using your bed, that's something you're going to want to keep in mind. So your bed with the Ranger, it's pretty small. It's a small pickup. It's going to be either 60 or 72 inches, depending on whether you go for the Super Cab or the Super Crew. But overall, I mean, it's as usable as a 60 to 72 inch bed can be. Now, before I get out of the bed, there is one thing I wanted to point out. There's like this exposed wire going from the bed to the tailgate. If this were like a work truck, that'd be fine, but this is a $41,000 truck. There shouldn't be exposed cables like that. The first thing I noticed when I was getting in this Ranger is that it's actually a little high to not have running boards. It's just sort of at a weird point where running boards would be nice, and I actually expected them, but that is an option you can get if you would like. Talking about the materials, it's pretty typical of what you would expect at this price point. You do have leather seats. They're black. I have no complaints. They feel quite comfortable. You could drive, go to work in these. You could certainly go for a reasonable sized road trip. The material in here that I found very interesting is on the door and in front of the passenger area. It's like a gray sparkly plastic, and this car has no piano black in it. We can't find any, which is incredible. Go Ford, no fingerprint magnets. This gray plastic doesn't attract fingerprints, and it looks nice. We'll show you some close-ups of it. You have these metal door handles that are well designed and look nice. You have a leather steering wheel, and the air vents too have a shiny plastic around them. It's kind of dark chrome looking, a smoked chrome. I quite like the look of it, and I think that it's a well thought out design. We're gonna walk around the Ford Sync infotainment system here a bit. If you follow the car world, you might know that the Sync 3 is a very well regarded system. Sync 2 and Sync 1 were pretty bad, but Ford really stepped their game up with this new system. This Ranger does not have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, but as you can see, the system is very snappy. It's well laid out. This is one of the only systems that has a navigation system that doesn't look like it was from 2005. This one looks like it's from maybe 2007. At least they put some effort into it. But you know, it has what you would expect. You can see right here, you can see my finger swiping it. It is a very good looking system. It is very snappy. I have absolutely no complaints about this, other than at this price point, I would like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So in this Lariat Ranger, you're going to get one physical gauge in the middle, which has that blue needle, which is sort of interesting. It's nicer than the normal whatever, but it's flanked by two small screens. Now these are starting to look a little dated and a little small, especially compared to some higher end competitors, but at this price point, it's acceptable. These two screens are both controlled by these arrows on the steering wheel, which is leather wrapped. It's a nice steering wheel. On the left, you have your driver's assistance features, your fuel, things such as that. You can switch it up. You can get different gauges. Now, if you look on the right, you will see you have your navigation, your phone, and your entertainment. And, you know, these are very useful for changing while you're driving. This truck is equipped with the $1,800 501A option group on the Lariat. That's going to get you your Sync 3. It's also going to get you a B&O sound system, which is very cool. We did listen to it. We can't play music for you because of YouTube copyright rules, but it does sound very good for a car sound system. Other things that you're going to notice in this interior is that the parking brake is oddly like bulging. It has a very large leather boot. I actually like it. It does say quality to me. Same thing goes for the gear shifter. It's wrapped in a nice leather in your center console area. Also in your center console area, you're gonna be able to shift into your 4 high, 4 low, and your 2 high. This truck does have the 4x4 package. Now, it's not all good in this interior. My biggest complaint would probably be with some of the knobs and the window switches feel quite flimsy. They look good and they're made of an appropriate material. However, when you turn them, there's not as much resistance as I would like in a typical vehicle. Some other things that are just sort of weird, not necessarily bad or good about this truck, is that the visor right here, it's a hard plastic, which is an interesting choice. I don't know why they went for that. I'm not sure if it's a cost-cutting measure, but hey, it works. We're here in the back of the Ranger, and as you can see in this Super Crew model, there is plenty of room for me. You all know I'm a tall guy, and I can fit in here perfectly fine. Honestly, I could ride in here for hours. And that's also possible because of a lot of the amenities you get back here. You get 2 USBs along with a household outlet. There's a nice little cubby for you to store a phone in or whatever. I would like, at this price point, in the top trim level, the Lariat, to see some air vents back here in the center console, but oh well. Something else that you get is map pockets. You know, that's pretty traditional. Now, in terms of interesting things back here, this is something. You would expect this to be your cup holders, correct? Well, that's kind of weird. To open this, you must pull it obnoxiously hard. I'm not kidding, obnoxiously hard to get it. You might have heard that click. You can see right here. To get that to open, you have to pull very hard. But once it does open, it's 2 very nice cup holders along with a nice area to rest your arm. It's actually quite padded. I don't know if you can see how far my elbow goes when I press into it, but overall, this is a nice place to ride. My biggest complaint about being back here, other than the air vents, would be exposed wires again. There are exposed wires for the rear glass heating, and at $41,000, exposed wires really anywhere is not okay. But other than that, this is a nice interior, and if you're not bugged by that small thing, this would be great to haul people around in. Now, there is one other sort of cost-cutting measure that we didn't mention. Back here, there is a dome light, and the 90s called. They want their dome light back. This looks like it was taken straight out of like a 90s Focus. You press in, it turns on, and it turns off. I'm not so bugged about that function. It's just that the look, it looks old and dated, and honestly, the cost-cutting features like that in this truck are what make it not perfect. If things like that and the exposed wire weren't here, I would have no complaints about this truck. This would be the perfect small truck. So it's disappointing to see stuff like that at $40,000. That's it for this 2019 Ranger. Overall, look, this is an amazing truck. It's very good at what it's supposed to do. It is a small truck that can be used for daily pickup truck tasks. You can haul around small loads. You can tow really an incredible amount for this size. And Ford did so much right, but they also just had things like those exposed wires, that weird dome light, just small cost-cutting measures that honestly kind of taint this truck from being perfect. So really, I do think it is a solid competitor. Probably, if you're looking for a small pickup, this should be at the top of your list. But Ford was just this close to making the perfect small truck. But the next generation is coming soon. Maybe they'll fix it then. We'll see you in next week's episode, guys. If you like this video, please subscribe. And again, a huge thanks to Desmond at Coons Ford. We'll have his email there. If you're in Maryland and looking for a new Ford, contact them, look at their website. Have a great week, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.